Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. It is Thursday, June 18, 2026, and today we are looking at something really fascinating. To understand the reality of the modern cruise industry right now, I want you to picture two completely contrasting scenarios.
Oh, yeah. Two totally different worlds, really.
Exactly. So in the first scenario, you're standing inside this cavernous, echoing concrete building. You are literally shoulder to shoulder with 6,699 other people.
Just a massive crowd.
Right, and the hum of the rolling luggage is just deafening. The sheer logistical effort required just to move all of you from point A to point B makes you feel less like a vacationer and, I don't know, more like a widget on a giant industrial assembly line.
Yeah, that's the macro side of it. But then, fast forward maybe 3 hours, you're sitting in a dimly lit, wood-paneled lounge.
Sounds much better already.
It is. The bartender hands you a glass of a 12-year-old maple-finished rye whiskey, and it came from a single specific barrel. It's a barrel that you literally cannot buy anywhere on land. You're completely insulated from the crowd, feeling utterly unique and entirely catered to.
So you've got the widget on an assembly line versus the VIP in a private lounge.
Exactly. And those two extremes represent the massive, simultaneous structural forces shaping the industry today. You've got major homeports pouring astronomical sums of money into industrial-scale infrastructure to handle sheer, unprecedented volume.
Right.
But meanwhile, out at sea, the premium lines are going the complete opposite direction. They're pouring their resources into hyper-rare, entirely unreproducible micro-experiences.
And the tension between those two realities is just so fascinating. I mean, how does an industry manage the logistics of processing thousands of people through a single bottleneck while still making sure you feel like you're drinking a one-of-a-kind glass of bourbon at a floating speakeasy?
It's a really tough balancing act.
It is. And to see how the landside handles this, we really have to look at Port Canaveral. They are currently advancing a massive $95 million upgrade to Cruise Terminal 10.
$95 million?
Yeah. And their board just unanimously approved a $23 million allocation to PCL Construction Services specifically for the existing facility. When you hear $95 million for a single terminal, it sounds kind of absurd, right? Until you look at the vessels this building actually services.
Right, because Terminal 10 operates as a Northside A terminal.
Which means what, exactly, in port terms?
Well, in port logistics, that designation means it serves as a primary high-capacity artery. It's the berth designed for the absolute apex predators of the ocean. We're talking about the Disney Wish, MSC Cruises MSC Seashore, and the MSC Grandiosa.
Just absolute behemoths.
Exactly. Vessels carrying up to 6,700 passengers. And the trend lines dictate that lines like Disney are actively pivoting toward even larger vessels.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. But the mathematics of moving 6,700 people off a ship and another 6,700 people onto a ship, all within a strict 4-hour turnaround window.
4 hours.
Yeah, just 4 hours. That requires a highly engineered physical footprint.
So let's visualize that footprint like a city's circulatory system. If Port Canaveral is the body, Terminal 10 is a major artery.
I like that analogy.
Right. So the security screening lanes, the boarding ramps, the elevators, those are the smaller vessels carrying the blood supply. If just one of those clogs, the whole giant organism suffers a massive failure.
Yeah, total bottleneck.
You suddenly have thousands of people backing up into the drop-off lanes. But, I have to push back on the fundamental premise here.
Oh, so?
Well, if I am forced to be processed through an industrial circulatory system with nearly 7,000 other people, doesn't that inherently destroy the relaxing vacation vibe before you even board? Like, you cannot simply engineer away the psychological stress of being trapped in a mob, no matter how much concrete you pour.
Actually, you can, provided you engineer the psychology of movement alongside the physical space.
Wait, psychology of movement?
Yeah, that is the core objective of this $95 million project. William Crow, he's the vice president of engineering and construction at the port. He used this term, right-sizing the terminal.
Right-sizing. Oh.
He isn't just talking about adding square footage, He's talking about the mechanics of continuous flow. Because when you are constantly moving, you don't feel like you're waiting in a line.
Oh, that makes sense. If you're walking, you don't feel stuck.
Exactly. So to achieve that continuous flow, they are meticulously recalculating their vertical transportation.
Which means, what? Analyzing exactly how fast an escalator or a ramp can push human traffic upward to the gangway without creating a jam at the top.
Precisely. They're dialing in the exact speed,
Yeah.
and they're also completely overhauling the luggage laydown areas. Because think about the physics of luggage for 6,700 people.
I mean, that's got to be, what, 2 bags a person on average?
Yeah, you are dealing with roughly 15,000 heavy bags. And all of those need to be sorted, security screened, and staged in a way that remains entirely invisible to the passenger.
Wow. 15,000 bags.
Right. If the luggage flow breaks down, the passenger flow halts. So they are taking an existing outdated facility and forcing it to evolve to meet a mathematical threshold it was never originally designed for.
And that evolution involves some decidedly unglamorous yet super critical triage. Going back to that $23 million allocated to PCL Construction Services, a large chunk of that is going toward replacing severely deteriorated waterside and landside trench drains.
Yeah, the drainage systems.
And we aren't just talking about a little pooled water after a Florida rainstorm. The structural failure of these drains was actively contributing to sinkholes forming in active traffic areas.
Sinkholes. I mean, when you factor in the sheer weight of provisioning trucks, thousands of passenger vehicles, and heavy multi-axle shuttle buses constantly rolling over that asphalt.
It adds up fast.
It really does. The subterranean infrastructure takes a massive beating, and you cannot maintain a premium brand experience if a guest's shuttle bus is dodging literal sinkholes in the drop-off lane.
No, definitely not the luxury vibe you want.
Right. The invisible foundational infrastructure has to be flawless before the aesthetic layer can even matter.
And speaking of the aesthetic layer, they are heavily focused on that too. Vance Gullickson, the director of communications over there, noted that the final product will feature spacious, modern interiors with a highly streamlined look.
So it won't just look like a warehouse.
Exactly. They are integrating colorful artwork and vastly expanding the security screening areas to ensure that continuous flow you mentioned earlier.
Do we know the timeline for all this?
Yeah, the final architectural designs are due by August of 2026, with the entire terminal completion targeted for November 2027. And furthermore, to handle the massive influx of vehicles, they are scheduled to finish a brand new 3,700 space parking garage over at Cruise Terminal 6 by September 2026.
3,700 spaces. The scale of this construction is staggering, but the financial reality driving it is even more compelling.
How much are we talking overall?
Well, Port Canaveral has $255 million in capital projects planned for 2026 alone.
Just for next year?
Just for 1 year. And over the next 5 years, they have $912 million, nearly $1 billion in total infrastructure projects on the books.
Almost $1 billion. Wow. And to put that near billion-dollar figure into perspective, I think we have to look at where the port actually makes its money. Because Port Canaveral sits squarely on Florida's Space Coast.
Right, the rocket launches.
Exactly. The public sees SpaceX and Blue Origin launching rockets into orbit on a weekly basis. Rockets generate the headlines, the viral videos, and all the global attention.
Everyone loves a rocket launch.
They really do.
Yeah.
But when you look at the port's fiscal year 2025 operating revenue, cargo and space-related activities combined brought in just $4.2 million.
$4.2 million. Out of what?
That is barely 2% of the port's total revenue.
Just 2%? That's incredible.
Right. The rockets are the spectacle, but the cruise ships are the absolute economic engine. Out of nearly $220 million in total operating revenue last year, about $182 million was tied directly to cruise operations.
And that includes all that parking infrastructure we just discussed, right?
Yep, it does. The ratio is just staggering. The port's CEO, Captain John Murray, articulated this reality perfectly. He stated, and I quote, "Cruise generates the income that allows us to do a lot of what we do at Port Canaveral."
The cruise pays for everything else.
Basically. He explicitly noted that they wouldn't have been able to build cargo docks or upgrade the local public parks without the capital generated by the cruise sector. The cruise ships are quietly footing the bill for the entire region's maritime infrastructure.
They really are.
Yeah.
I mean, they handled over 8.6 million passenger movements last year. That's a 13% increase from the prior year.
And it's only going up.
Yeah, they project roughly 9 million movements next year, with 18 different ships homeporting there.
Incredible. But here's the thing. Once Port Canaveral successfully manages to funnel all 6,700 of us through those expanded security lanes, the psychology of the vacation fundamentally flips.
How do you mean?
Well, the cruise line officially inherits the passenger, and their immediate problem is no longer moving the herd. Their problem is making you forget you were ever part of a herd to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. The moment you step across the threshold of that gangway, your desire completely shifts. You
Yeah.
no longer care about efficiency, you care about individuality.
Right, you want to feel special.
You want an experience that feels highly curated, intimately personal, and completely immune to mass production. And this psychological shift is exactly why we are seeing premium cruise lines invest unprecedented capital into highly exclusive onboard food and beverage programs.
And Holland America line is executing a total masterclass in this strategy right now.
Oh, big time, with the bourbon.
Yes. For 2026, they are massively expanding their onboard single-barrel series. They are stocking 13 distinct single-barrel bourbons and ryes in the ocean bar across their entire fleet.
13 different single barrels.
Yeah. And what strikes me is the aggressive trajectory of this program, because just 2 years ago, in 2024, they tested the waters with literally a single barrel of Buffalo Trace.
Right.
Last year, they bumped it to 9. Now they're at 13. They are securing entire barrels directly from distilleries, bottling them, and serving them exclusively at sea.
The brilliance of this strategy lies in how it completely bypasses the traditional land-based whiskey market.
It really does.
Yeah. The Director of Food and Beverage Revenue and Innovation for Holland America, Drew Folk, he highlighted a major frustration for bourbon enthusiasts. When master distillers release these incredibly rare single-barrel expressions, they almost never make it to the average consumer.
Nope, never.
They get immediately swallowed up by specialty retailers, marked up exponentially, or just hidden away by private collectors.
Which is so frustrating if you're a fan. But Folk stated, "We're changing that model by making them available on board for guests to enjoy during their cruise."
It's a game changer.
It is. And it transforms the fundamental utility of the cruise ship. We usually think of the ship as, a luxurious mode of transport taking us to a physical destination like Alaska or the Caribbean.
Right.
But by hoarding an inventory of rare spirits that literally cannot be purchased in a land-based liquor store, the ship itself becomes the destination for collectors. The cruise fare effectively becomes the cover charge to enter an exclusive floating speakeasy.
A floating speakeasy. That analogy holds up perfectly, especially when you examine the specific roster they've secured for 2026.
Oh, the lineup is insane.
They aren't just buying generic Burke whiskey. They have Weller Full Proof Single Barrel, Blanton's Private Barrel, Elijah Craig, Kentucky Peerless.
It's a heavy-hitting list.
It keeps going. 1792, Bottled in Bond, Uncle Near's 1884, Woodford Reserve, and both Knob Creek Single Barrel, Bourbon, and Rye.
Wow.
I mean, any premium whiskey bar in Manhattan or London would fight to have that lineup on their back bar.
But securing big-name brands isn't enough to guarantee a truly unique micro-experience, right?
Yeah.
You have to offer a flavor profile that the guest has literally never encountered before.
Exactly.
And this is where the specialty finishes come into play. Holland America procured 2 Angel's Envy single-barrel bourbons that have been finished in port wine barrels.
Very nice.
And even more fascinating, they secured 2 WhistlePig ryes. One is a standard 10-year, and the other is a highly specific 12-year maple brulee rye.
Oh, let's break down the chemistry of that 12-year maple brulee rye, because it perfectly illustrates the depth of this exclusivity.
Please do.
So, to create that expression, WhistlePig takes a barrel that previously held maple syrup and they rechar the inside.
Okay.
When the rye whiskey goes in, the charred wood acts as a chemical filter. The alcohol penetrates the cellular structure of the oak, extracting all the residual sugars from the maple syrup that were trapped deep within the wood.
So all that sweet maple gets pulled into the whiskey.
Exactly. So the sharp, peppery spice that's so characteristic of a rye whiskey is slowly mellowed out and rounded by caramelized maple, vanilla, and heavy oak notes.
That sounds incredible.
It is a highly specific flavor profile, curated entirely for the passengers of that specific cruise line.
It's exactly the kind of sensory detail that elevates a brand. When a cruise line's beverage team collaborates directly with master distillers to isolate those specific tasting notes, whether it's the maple in the WhistlePig or the dark fruit and spice in the port-finished Angel's Envy, it signals to the passenger that their individual palate is being catered to at the highest possible level.
Right, you aren't just drinking off-the-shelf liquor.
No, you are drinking a spirit engineered for the exact environment you're sitting in.
And, Holland America is pushing that concept of environment-engineered spirits even further. We should clarify that this 13-bottle single-barrel series is a completely separate initiative from their partnership with Jefferson's Bourbon.
Right, the ocean age stuff.
Yeah, The Jefferson's program isn't just about buying rare barrels. It's about utilizing the cruise ship as an active ingredient in the distilling process.
Which is wild to think about. The ship is an ingredient.
It is. The Jefferson's Ocean Age program is just a fascinating study in molecular interaction. Right now, on all 11 of Holland America's ships, there are barrels of Jefferson's bourbon physically maturing out on the open water.
While passengers are on vacation, there's bourbon aging below them.
Yep. When bourbon normally ages in a rick house in Kentucky, it sits relatively still. The aging process relies primarily on seasonal temperature changes to expand and contract the wood.
But put that same barrel deep in the hull of a ship traversing the globe, and the variables change completely, right?
Exactly.
The continuous physical rolling and pitching of the vessel acts as a constant agitator, aggressively sloshing the liquid inside. This vastly increases the surface area contact between the bourbon and the charred oak.
Add to that the drastic fluctuations in barometric pressure as the ship moves through different maritime weather systems.
What does the pressure do to it?
Those pressure drops literally force the liquid deeper into the staves of the barrel, extracting rich tannins and complex flavors far faster than static aging on land would.
Wow.
Finally, the salt-heavy maritime air slowly permeates the porous wood over time, imparting this subtle, briny characteristic to the finish. It's the ultimate expression of maritime terroir.
Maritime terroir, I love that. The environment of the cruise itself is fundamentally altering the molecular structure of the bourbon.
Precisely.
And once those barrels complete their specific shipboard aging period, they will be offloaded, bottled, and returned to the fleet for guests to drinks starting in 2027.
So you aren't just drinking a whiskey on a ship, you are drinking a whiskey made by the ship.
It perfectly encapsulates the dual narrative of the modern industry. On the macro level, you have port authorities marshaling nearly $1 billion, replacing subterranean trench drains and calculating the exact speed of escalators just to ensure that 6,700 people can walk onto a vessel without creating a catastrophic bottleneck.
It's a total triumph of industrial-scale logistics and mass crowd flow. Right. And yet, the entire purpose of that massive logistical triumph is to deliver you to a quiet seat in the ocean bar.
It's so true. We started by contrasting the exhaustion of a crowded terminal with the intimacy of a perfect, quiet drink. As ports become increasingly brilliant at managing sheer volume, the onboard experience has to become increasingly individualized to compensate.
The standard for luxury is no longer just excellent service.
Yeah.
It's undeniable exclusivity.
Yeah.
If you are a bourbon aficionado, the allure of a 12-year maple finish rye or an ocean-aged bourbon that does not exist anywhere else on the planet, that becomes a very powerful deciding factor.
Which leaves us with a really compelling question about the future of vacation planning. If cruise lines continue to lock down these highly curated, unreproducible micro-experiences, how long until the onboard amenities completely overshadow the itinerary?
That's the billion-dollar question.
We may be approaching a reality where the unreproducible, ocean-aged drink in your hand ultimately dictates which ship you book, rendering the actual destination it sails to entirely secondary. Something to think about next time you're standing in a massive terminal waiting to board.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.